Good morning.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how are you?
Good. What day is it?
Today.
It's June 20th. It's the day before my birthday.
Happy birthday, Jeff.
Thank you. I appreciate
Everybody
it.
say happy birthday
Happy
to Jeff. Now we got
birthday,
that
Jeff.
Thank you.
No, you can't sing the song. I don't know the song.
Yeah, I don't like that song.
Yeah, can't sing the song.
Anyways, today it's June 20th. We are late. But,
Yeah, we're late.
It's because I'm running the one-man show back here.
Oh, yeah, because John Zenz, who usually assists us,
Yeah,
disappeared into the ether.
Nelsonville Music Festival.
Yeah.
It's okay. If we're late, everyone will blame me anyway.
There we go.
I know. That's true.
We let the guests
Wait,
take the heat
it was
around here.
Reeves' fault.
Yeah.
JBR.
Well, we obviously have with us today Reeves Gabrels.
Just blame Reeves.
Needs no introduction.
True.
And as always, Ken.
Hi.
What are you holding there,
Ken? This is a most exciting Friday broadcast, not just because of Jeff's pending birthday.
Sure. Yeah.
But we have Reeves, which is incredible because I've been trying to get Reeves here since we built the new studio, and you are a very, very busy dude. And
I don't feel busy.
Yeah, but you are.
I don't feel tardy.
Between the two of us, it's been hard to kind of put this together. But last night in the studio here, not only was Reeves here, but we also brought Jerome Parker Wells and Jonathan Cain.
Yep.
And we did a performance of the band formerly known as
Doom Dogs.
Yes, indeed.
But apparently there was some another band that came along after us that decided to use the name, and we figured, okay, we'll just everybody. I mean, because we were not a known quantity anyway as Doom Dogs, but people seem to know us as individuals. We just figured we'd sound like a law firm and become Gabrels, Cain, Parker, Wells.
I like it. So while we're on it was absolutely incredible.
They're awesome.
Guys, Jerome and Jonathan are amazing. Reeves, can you explain the history of that band a little bit for those who are going to watch these videos when they're done?
Yeah.
And where those guys come from and stuff? Because in case you didn't know, Reeves has been in the industry for a really, really long time, and he's played guitar for some stuff that you might have heard of, Tim Machine, David Bowie, and The Cure, amongst many, many others. Talk about the other
Public
gentlemen.
Enemy.
Public Enemy, yeah.
Not Roy Rogers. Paul Rogers.
I like Roy Rogers. Change your bio.
that he was easy to piss off, and that would have pissed him off if he heard it. But he unbelievable singer, and lots of different studio things like it. I'm on the Stones track, Out of Control. I played with. I worked on a Mick Jagger record, the last Mick Jagger record that was his worst selling record. And I don't think our tracks the tracks I did with it made it actually, but I can still say I played with him.
Yeah.
And I know I'm forgetting a lot of different things, and then
one of my favorite,
and my band,
of course,
the Imaginary Friends.
One of my favorite things is that you wrote Wrong Number for The Cure, or with Robert. It
was a different song. I played on that, and I wrote after the fact that Robert said I guess I should have put your name on that. But then we did. I can't remember the name of the song. It was in the South Park movie Orgasmo, and I have to sing the whole song in my head to remember. It's early for me, so anyway, there's a lot of things that I've done that I can't remember.
Well, go on the record about Jerome and Jonathan.
Yes, that was the original question.
Yes.
So Jerome, I met at a NAMM show, and in L.A., if I remember correctly, and he lives on the East Coast, as do I, and Jonathan, and we started playing together at the Knitting Factory. Lance Carter was a drummer. Bill Martin was a drummer for a while. Lance Carter sadly passed away. And we did one record in the early 90s, and we would play together a couple times a year. And the thing about the music is it's what we started to call genre-free improvisation. And we try to write the songs in the moment. But it also can go very far out. What someone said, we went from last night, the end of one song, like the last 5 minutes, it started out like a kind of a Coltrane thing, and with me doing my best trying to get in this soprano sax, my favorite things, Coltrane head, and I ended up playing my 2 or 3 country licks at the very end of it. So it's that kind of band that can go anywhere. Jerome played with Ronald Shannon, Blood Ulmer, and I think Ronald Shannon Jackson, and he was in a band called Machine Gun. Yeah. Jonathan Cain was a founding member of the band The Swans, which was a New York band, a downtown New York band, like post-punk. And he played with Lamonte Young and Glenn Branca and Reese Chatham, and those guys, those last 3 guys tend to do like guitar. It's minimalist and it's seriously loud. They treat the room as though it's the resonating box of an acoustic guitar. They try to get the room to vibrate, and they might have 100 guitar players, and the parts are written, and they'll be, relatively simple, like, but you get 100 guitars going together. There's going to be natural chorusing. There's going to be some rhythmic stuff, and there'll be a bass player, I think, in some of the aggregations. And Jonathan is the drummer in that, and he's a monster. And he can play whisper quiet, or he can explode on you, and scare the shit out of you, like surprise you at just the power. And he's a sweetheart as well, and so is Jerome. And I enjoy their company. And it's a conversation. Somebody we've said that, or I've said that. If you travel in a van or a bus, a tour bus, or you're with people all the time and you enjoy talking to them, when you play together, it's just an extension of the conversation, and it's not like, okay, now you solo and now you solo and now you solo. It's constant interplay with us, and
Yeah.
leapfrogging on ideas. Like, Jerome might play something and I'll go, okay, it could have two more notes at the end. So then I'll hear it and I'll play it and I'll add the extra notes, and then he'll hear it and he'll pick that up, and then Jonathan will switch the groove. It's jamming, but it's at its best. I think jamming is spontaneous composition. And actually, when you sit down to write a song with someone, like having written as many songs with Bowie as I did, or writing with other people, when you're writing, you don't know where you're going if you're starting from scratch, and so it is like slow motion jamming to me.
Okay.
And whereas when we're doing the Gabrels, Kane, Parker Wells band law firm, it's more like high speed composition.
Yeah.
So, but that's their history in a nutshell. And I'm sure I'm leaving stuff out, but
I had to gather everyone before this event over the last couple of days. And I really enjoyed spending time with those guys, both of them. We had a blast, and we had a nice time. We went out to dinner last night with my daughter. We had a great time sitting there talking. Yeah. And at some point, somebody has to pull the plug. Yeah, you have to be okay. We really have to go to bed.
Yeah.
But I feel like I've known those guys for a lifetime after just spending a couple of days with them. I mean, they are really, really good, cool people, and that comes off when you guys are doing your thing. Like, the energy in this room last night was amazing. And Jerome and Jonathan's smiles, like when you guys would hit a groove and then just watch them light up. I can't wait for you guys to see these videos. The videos were really, really cool and fun. So look forward to that in our frenzy, if I may, of YouTube performances from the Circle R Studios. Jeff is actually just sitting there now. And he kind of, there's this like vibe, like I'm comfortable and relaxed, and it's going to be my birthday tomorrow and it's the weekend. But then I can also sort of sense this, fuck, I have like 20 videos I have to edit vibe that's coming up.
It's an understatement. Yeah, I'm picking at a scab on my hand.
Well, and I was actually looking at him thinking that he looked like we beat him up last night.
A little bit. Feeling all the above. Yeah.
Well, it's the perfect day then.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's get drunk tonight.
You know what's going to happen here? I'm going to go first.
Okay.
And I'm going to talk about all these guitars that I have sitting over here. And then we're going to talk about the one in your hands. But today, which is Friday the
20th
of 2025.
Funny that he knows what day it is.
I know. Somebody has to
I'm always
track of that shit.
Yeah.
Is New Guitar Day. It's launch day here at Reverend. And I have samplings of all of the new guitars that we're launching. And the one in my hands isn't exactly new, but it is in some great new colors. This is a 6-gun TL, and you guys have asked for this to come back. And as you may have noticed, as we go through 2025, we're doing a lot of short runs, and we're touching on things that we've done over the last 10, 12 years to get them back out there and to fill some of the void that people have said, oh, if you still made that, I would have that, or whatever. And we're going to have a very, very exciting 2026. We've talked about this a little bit. A lot of the models are changing, and there's going to be a lot of new shit. So it was time to just sort of do some stuff. And the 6-gun TL is one of them. This bad boy is in Army Green with the maple board and the black pickguard. And it's got our TL Nico pickup in the bridge. Which will do all that stuff, but it'll do the rock well. And there's nothing to me like a Telly-style pickup in the bridge when you are in position to do your Knopfler thing. It just does a thing to me that is like better than a Strat. I said it. It's a really, really cool tone. And of course, you start throwing in the bass contour and all the other fun stuff on this guitar. It is the 6-gun TL, and here's the gorgeous High Tide Blue version, right? And there's some medieval red bad boys out there too. They all look great. You will see if you check on over to Greg's channel, Mr. Gregory Cockery is out. Greg Cocker Shockrock is out on tour with the Allman Family Band. And not only is he performing with the band, but he has his trio out opening the shows. And they're having a blast. And we have launched the transparent white versions of the Gristle ST and the Gristle Master. Here's, of course, the ST. And as we do, they are opaque on the back and transparent on the front. And of course, this features his Gristle set of Fishman S-style pickups. And he demos this guitar much better than I do. So I have a tendency to keep my mouth shut and just let him come through.
I've never known you to have that tendency.
And he'll play the shit out of this in this room at some point. And just so you can see the white Gristle Master, the white OG Gristle Master. It's beautiful, though.
It is. It's lovely.
Yeah, and also, y'all, I will bring it up because Greg always brings it up when he's talking about these guitars. And the idea that they are slightly larger because Greg and I are very, very big
slightly
boys.
Larger.
Yeah, we are. Yeah. But that is very, very subtle. It is about the width of the binding. And even if you hold these guitars up to, the standard Reverend guitars, this isn't, because Reeves, people call us and ask if this will fit in a guitar case or if they need to get like a 335 case for it. And it's like, no, it's not like it's some sort of giant thing. And then something that Mr. Jeff back there behind the camera is very excited about.
I got a spare stand over here.
Oh, good. This is the Roundhouse Junior in Oxblood. Single humbucker, 24 3/4 scale, obviously. Oxblood with the gold guard, and this is the Reverend humbucker. This thing rips. It's probably not in tune.
Okay, then I won't try to accompany you.
Yeah.
I did remember the name of the song, though. It's Sign from God.
Sign from God.
That was in the South Park movie.
How long after Bowie's 50th birthday celebration was that? Because that was where your whole relationship with them.
I was what I hate. I don't think rock bands should have musical directors, but when you have that many people as guests and stuff, and I was basically for the Bowie bands at that point, except for the '95 tour. I was the MD or the band leader, and as Carlos Alomar had been years before when we got to, I did Tin Machine, and wrangling that band was somebody had to do that, and
are you saying that the Sales Brothers needed managing?
They didn't need managing. They needed they needed a little bit of steering sometimes, like what, but that was why we were playing. I mean, they would. All those years with Iggy Pop rubbed off, and the fact that David had toured with Iggy on keyboards with them as the rhythm section kind of is one of the reasons why it felt band-like as soon as we got together, because they had been in a band. David Bowie had been in a band backing Iggy Pop, so when I was there was some freshman hazing with me because that was. They want to know who was this guy, who was this glasses wearing asshole from Boston, pseudo intellectual fuck, and they tweezed me for a little while till I lost my temper one day, and then they were like, yes, anyway, I met. So I had to teach, like Lou Reed was at David's birthday show and did a couple of songs. Wow. So I met Lou, and Lou was really like very New York and very kind of difficult and sort of a jerk with me for the first 15 minutes, and then I said something that he said. I said something that cracked him up, and then it's changed completely. And then he was waiting for his car to come and pick him up after I taught him the songs, and because he was playing Queen Bitch, which is a David song, and a couple of others, and he actually the thing was he kept messing this one thing up, and I had written the chords over the lyric sheet for him, and he kept messing up at this one section, and I said, Lou, is there something I can help you with here that to make this make more sense for? And he goes, well, what's an O chord? And I said, an O chord, and I looked at it, and it was a D, but I guess I had written it fast, so I made the And I said, no, that's a D. He goes, well, it's got a pretty weak spine for a D. And I just took my Sharpie and I went, and then we traveled on from there. But he was waiting for his car, and the car, and I had gone back in the studio because we were mixing the Earthling album at the time, and what I did not know is that David was still in the control room while I was teaching Lou the songs in the live room. There was a mic that they recorded me with Lou. It got recorded on it but that's a whole other story that we don't have time for. What ended up with, but I went out to get a cup of coffee in the lounge, and Lou was still waiting for his car, and I just looked at him and I said, maybe you should change it to waiting for my car instead of waiting for the man or my man. And he just lost it. I didn't think it was that funny, but he had this like giggle, like this high pitched giggle that you would not expect to come out of him. And then we talked a little bit more, and he was like, he gave me his phone number, and he said, he goes, at my age, I don't really sleep that much, but so if you ever need anything, just call me. Like if you need bail money, or it's the middle of the night, don't worry about it, just call me. And I ran into a bunch of other times, and he stopped to sound check one day to show me his new guitar because he was playing it. He was like he was not the guy you see on the cover of Rock and Roll Animal, but he was the guy you see on the cover of Rock and Roll Animal. And but I met Robert, and Robert and I. He was one of the guests, and we were playing one of the brand new songs that David and I had written for the album, for the Earthling album, and we were playing. We were playing Quicksand, which is an old Bowie song, and Robert, is thorough, and he knew when he came to town. We were supposed to start rehearsals on Saturday, I think it was. He got in on Wednesday night into New York City, and we were staying at the same hotel. And took us about an hour or two just to run through the stuff and talk a little bit. And he said, well, what do you want to do now? You want to go out and get a beer? And we went out. And the next thing we remember, he and I kind of came back into this dimension, sitting on a couch in the lobby of that hotel that we were in. And neither one of us, I've been in the Cure now for like 14 years, we've talked about it, and neither one of us can have any memory of what happened for like a day and a half. So I think that's also one of the reasons why I'm in the band, because we do get along. We do get along well. So, but what was the question?
I don't remember. Does it matter? That was a cool story.
But yeah, and then we did Sign from God before. We did Wrong Number in '97. I'm listed on their greatest hits record. It was a new that they put out that year. And I'm listed as playing guitar on it, but most people don't know that I played with them back then. So me joining the band in 2012 was, some people think it was a surprise that they just called me up out of the blue, but we'd done that, and then a little bit later we did Sign from God for South Park, and then and we also I did a version of, I had a song. I can't remember the name of that song, but it's a song on one of my solo records that Robert sang, as 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 well. Yesterday's Gone is the name of it, and we just, I booked a studio for 12 hours. We
did
wrote
that with the Friends pretty regularly.
Yeah, we used to do that because it was a good song.
Oh, it's a great
You could it turned into a 15-minute like Space Jam at the end, which, it's not, it's a little more, was a little more sensitive and shorter on the record, but it but he did that for my record, and then when I was living in Nashville, I wrote to him and said, I'm coming over to London, do you want to write a song for my next solo record? And he wrote back really quickly, and which was unusual, and said, what are you doing this what are you doing this summer? And I said, well, I kind of said in my last email, but nothing, but now that you're asking me the question, nothing that I couldn't move around if you've got something else in mind.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, can you learn 30 songs in a month? And, it was Nashville. We learned 30 songs overnight.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And but then it took him 3 weeks to send me the songs, and then he sent me 55. So I was building a pedal board, rehearsing, and learning songs at night in my hotel room in a week. And then the first show was at Pink Pop in front of 70,000 people, which, not to sound like a jerk, but at this point, the number of people in the room isn't really an issue. It's harder for me to play for one person.
Sure.
Or for a camera.
Yeah, I get that.
But when you're playing for 70,000 people, people are spilling beers on each other, and they're distracted part of the time. So I feel a little more comfortable that I experiment more live in front of a lot of people than I will in a room with just a couple. So it kind of went from there, and here I am.
I remember the preparation for that tour.
Well, you guys
called us, and we
covered
pieced together a bunch of guitars for you real quick, and some of which are still with you. I love the Rick Vito classic, the Re-Vito.
Yeah.
And we took the P90 out of the neck position, and we put 2 rail hammers in it, and you used it for what you would do with your classic 2 humbucker guitar or whatever.
I'm still using it.
And remember the tape across the top of the guitar with chord progressions.
Because the song that I was using it on, because I had such a short period of time to learn the songs, I had to cheat a little bit. So I just put a piece of white tape here, and it's still on it.
I know,
because now it's become sentimental. Like
Yeah, right.
And it's a little confusing if I use it on a different song, because I'll look down sometimes and it'll say F sharp minor. There's no F sharp minor in this song. but they were basically just prompts, so I can remember. But the tabby, the first like iteration of the sus, the RG sus was that I started with, and it's still there. And Orange RG1 is out with me. I've got 14 guitars out, and other than the an Epiphone nylon string Chet Atkins and an Epiphone nylon steel string Chet Atkins. Everything else is, and Robert gave me a bass 6,
sure.
But then you guys made me a bass 6 that's 24 frets, and Robert's signature model bass 6 that he has with another company. With Schecter.
Never heard of him.
I figure why. He will use the 24 frets. He'll play the high E on a bass 6. So the one you guys made me has 24 frets, so I can cop, because I in the studio he plays the bass 6 parts, and live he can't do a lot of them because he's singing.
Right.
So I'm covering a lot of his parts, and then I'm also playing the signature lines on the basic signature lines on the older songs, and then so I've got two guitar trunks with 14. What are the ones? They're like closets.
They are.
You just take the front off, and they're hanging there, and they're strapped in place, and it means that uh, that Al, my guitar tech, doesn't have to take everything out of the case every night. And
You let me borrow that nylon string Chet Atkins for years. I had that guitar for 2 or 3 years when my band, the Polka Floyd Show, was performing The Wall in its entirety. And I used to use that guitar on Is There Anybody Out There and like a couple other things or whatever. And then we've gotten away from doing that record in its entirety now because it's a lot.
yeah,
And then I remember the first time I saw you playing that with the Cure, and I was like, wait, is that the guitar I was dragging around for years? And it's so cool. So freaking cool.
The funny thing about both of those guitars is the and Al prefers to do it this way, and Chris Boyle, who had been my guitar tech for the first couple of years.
You mean tattoo artist Chris Boyle?
Yeah, tattoo artist Chris Boyle. And torn between the two occupations. He never intended to be a guitar tech.
Yeah.
So he just was we had such a short period of time to get my shit together had to do the carne. My wife Susan did she had worked for an import-export business in San Francisco when she first got out of college. So she knew about carnes and things like that. So carne is a thing. So you can bring your stuff into the country and leave with it without having to pay a tax because they think you bought it there or you were exporting it, or that it verifies that it was yours. So she was doing the carne for all the pedals because I didn't know what I needed for the gigs exactly because I hadn't really thoroughly learned all the songs, all 55 songs, which eventually became 138 songs that we had active in 2019, I think it was. And I charted them all out. So I have like a really thick big ring binder that I have all the charts in. So if Robert calls a song that we haven't played in 6 months, I can just pull it. There's 4 copies of it. One travels with me, one travels with Al in the trunk. One is home in case everything catches fire on the road and we got to do a gig and Susan can FedEx it to me.
Yeah.
And there's one more. Where's the other one? I think the other one's in my locker in London. And
you've talked to me about this before, and I think it's kind of fascinating. But when you're touring, during sound check, Robert will bring up songs that he wants to bring in maybe the following day or the day after. And you will rehearse them at that sound check for that night. And so you're kind of leapfrogging songs in the set list as you go.
Well, you got to shake the dust off them.
Sure, of course.
And one of the reasons why we had so many songs is we play like a 3 we have played as long as 4 hours and 10 minutes there's 2 encores in there, but they're only maybe 3 minutes to 5 minutes because we have a clock backstage. When we go off to the side of the stage, we can see how long we're hanging out doing nothing between we could be playing. But like when we play 3 nights at Madison Square Garden, is what we generally do, or 3 nights at the Hollywood Bowl or at Wembley, and we, as a point of pride, you want to play. You don't want to play the same set every night.
Yeah, because there are going to be people that attend everything.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And a lot of bands will go out and I mean, even with David, we played it like an hour and 20 minutes. That was the show, and was pretty much the same show every night when it was David Bowie. When it was Tin Machine, we even did a show where we'd let the audience call out the songs that the band from our album, from the Tin Machine album. So, it meant that only real Tin Machine fans would know what, if you're going to call out Ziggy Stardust, that ain't happening, and Let's Dance really ain't happening. So, with that version of Tin Machine was its own kind of entity. So, so that was completely the opposite. But there are a lot of bands out there that it's just entirely sequenced. I mean, I have friends that if they're running like a Helix or something like that, it's midied up.
They don't even have to touch the
They don't
pedal
touch anything. Like, okay, I'm going to the chorus, and this is gonna be this distorted sound from this clean chorus sound, and it's like I can't. And I know people whose text will change their settings. This is part of it's all one piece. The amp is part of the instrument. The pedals are part of the instrument, and that's something that's slowly, I think, I don't know if it's getting lost or it's just some people have gone this way, other people have gone that way, but working the amp for feedback, or working the amp in conjunction with the guitar. Is it's like a cello without the bow.
Right.
If you're not pushing air, and that's my opinion. But
talk about it. You have in front of you the rig that you played with the guys last night.
Yeah.
And it's is that the Richie Kotzen?
Yeah, I got that. I bought that a couple of weeks ago because I had it's the fly rig, the Richie Kotzen fly rig, and it's a version 3, and it's basically a distortion pedal into a Sans amp, which kind of becomes your amplifier, and that's all analog. And there's a boost you can put in front of all that, or you can switch it so it's at the end for lead boost, which is the way I use it. And then it goes to an effects loop, which I have this in. I'll get to that in a second. And then it's got a digital section, which is reverb and a delay, which also has a drift mode, so it's like an old Echoplex when the tape is sort of wobbling, or you can switch it and it turns it into a Leslie. And it's 12 inches long and 3 inches wide. I mean, and I've found over time that if I'm looking for something, if it's somebody a guitar player I respect, like Richie or Paul Gilbert, if they've got or there's a lot of others, but if Andy Timmons, his pedal that he makes with JHS, I know I'm going to like it. I'm going to be able to find what I can use in it, even if it's not I'm not trying to sound like them, but they're the kind of guys who if their sound is in the pedal, there's also a lot of other sounds that maybe they don't use or we don't think they use or whatever. They
sound good, so once you're there, you can tweak it to what you're looking for because they sound
I can
good.
make it sound bad.
Yeah.
And so in the effects loop, I have I over time I've become sort of not disillusioned or disgruntled, but I'm always looking for like a new effect. Source Audio's distortion modeler, or I think it's called the distortion modeler. It's the blue one that and I think they stopped making it. But that's one of the it does like octave fuzz. It does just regular old overdrive.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great pedal. But I went, and also because when we did the Earthling record, I was using the Roland VG8 for a little while with that, and got to play with Goldie, and as a third turntable. I was on a send in DJ booth, and I had a headphone on, and I would just play along with whatever he was doing,
Yeah.
and he would listen just like you as you do with turntables, and he'd throw me in, and I only have one headphone on, so I could hear when I was in the house and when I wasn't, and so I liked that aspect of music, or the culture, the club DJ club thing, and then I read a review of the Chaos Pad, the Korg Chaos Pad, in Guitar World, I think it was in '99 or something like that, or '98 when it first came out. It was the version 1, and they said it's great in the studio. You can monkey with your tracks, after the fact, but it has absolutely no live application for bass players and guitar players. So I went out and I got one that afternoon, and at Manny's was still open, I think it was, that I went to, and I used it on a gig that night, and so that's what's in the effects loop on this. So I can do like this thing, or a ring modulator, or you can just play the thing itself. Or it doesn't have a smart shift harmonizer in it, but it does have a harmonizer in it. So you can, and as you do, and that's in conjunction. That the high note was the sustainiac, which is in this. You'll hear this is what it would sound like without the harmonizer. So this lets me go someplace that guitar players don't normally go. Though later in the early aughts, I think Matt Bellamy started using one of these. I'm not entirely sure where he heard it, but so that and this the biggest thing about transporting this to a gig is bringing the snare stand that I cut a little platform for it and found a bracket that would fit, and I should have put a cup holder, but
yeah, it's not too late.
It's never too late for a cup holder.
No. Yeah, and after playing it for so many years,
I stopped for a long time.
You did.
I got sick of my own.
Yeah, it's
stuff.
fun to see it back.
Yeah,
and you're very natural with it. I mean, the way it works in you. I don't know, man. Does anybody ever told you that you're a very tasteful player? Is that something that you hear often?
No.
Okay, because I feel that you are, and I think when you have tools like this at your disposal, and it never feels like you use them as like the basis for what you're doing. That you'll go like with these jams yesterday, these arcs as you refer to them. It happens when it happens.
Yeah.
But you're not just sitting there playing with that the entire time. You're doing your thing, and then you can tell when the moment is coming, and then it just drops right in.
Well,
it's
actually,
very cool.
That question actually makes me think of the other.
You're sustaining.
I'm sustaining even though I've got the volume off. The funny thing about the sustainer is that if you have it plugged in, but you've got your amp off, it'll still sustain.
All the strings will go.
And I remember thinking, am I getting tinnitus? Because I had been playing at home, and I had shut the amp off, and I'd left the guitar plugged in, and the sustainer had been left on, and there was this, and I'm walking around the room, and I'm like, I'm closing, putting my fingers in my ears to see if it's coming from inside my skull, or which that happens enough with other things. So it all exists in my own skull, but but it turned out that I just left my sustainer plugged in. But the thing about it is when you know, having been playing since the '70s, it you know, I like Les Paul Juniors, and I start first guitar was a Telecaster. I realized I'd made a mistake because it wasn't the sound I was looking for. DiMarzio was just starting up. I got a gold top with little pickups, and DiMarzio was on Staten Island where I lived. So and he was working in a basement, and I was there the day the guy brought down the Sun logo that he used.
Okay.
The guy that owned the building that he lived in was, I guess, a graphic designer, and he brought it down to show it to him, and they were like, "Yeah, I think that's it." And Steve Blucher was there, all the usual suspects, and but so I come out of like that Leslie West, Cream era Clapton, early Jeff Beck, pick Jeff Beck, non-strat Jeff Beck, like the first Jeff Beck album, Jeff Beck group album with Rod Stewart and Ron Wood playing bass, more than the later stuff. And then I found Holdsworth and the later Jeff Beck thing, and Adrian was certainly an influence. And I had to stop listening to those guys because once I got more facile with the bar, I would start to sound too much like them.
Those guys. Yeah, sure.
But my point is, when Pro Tools and Logic came along, what I liked to do was just play straight ahead rock guitar on a track, and then Monkey would chop it up and move it around and do different effects. Like the mildest one might be, but a decent example would be like ring modulation, but just put it in on the end of on the sustaining note and stuff like that. But then I wanted to be able to do that live.
Sure.
And unless you've got like Roxy Music at Brian Eno doing treatments back in the day of what was being played on stage, I wanted to be able to do something like that. But I wanted to be the guy doing the manipulation as well as the playing. So when I found this, I found a way to do that, but then I had to get comfortable with it so I could be playing and then just reach over and do something and still be playing and not have to stop playing to go. Right. And so that's the way I treat this. It's like I have a melodic idea, and I at the core of it is I hope like a nice beefy rock guitar tone.
100%.
You know, and then also in the middle of all this, I ended up when I was in New York and I was going to art school in the late '70s. I studied with John Scofield for a little while, so I have that whole jazz harmony thing. And then he talked me into going to Berkeley, so that was another thing. So then I sold everything and bought a hollow body guitar, and that lasted for half a semester. and then I had to find the money to buy everything that I had sold back again, or some variation. So there's that in there too, and so I'll be playing like happened last night. We were playing something that had that Coltrane kind of vibe to it, and it was we were playing. We had shifted from like a Queens of the Stone Age type thing into I think I said earlier, like my favorite things kind of thing with where Coltrane's playing soprano, and at the end of that, I started, I was playing what would be considered more standard jazz lines, but then I could reach over and just twist it with this. And so it's like, I think Zappa had it was it's like jazz from Mars then for a moment, and then it comes back, and it's available. Like anybody can do this.
Right.
You know, it's not like I'm doing anything exotic. It's the final frontier is melody, because melody is, you're putting something out there, and you're basically, by virtue of the fact that you're just playing a melody untreated, you're saying, I think this is pretty, or this is telling you that something hurt me and I'm still working it out. But you're putting your heart on the line, you know, and to me that's the job, and not the job, that's the art.
That's the art.
Is you're trying to, if people come and see you and they leave feeling a little bit lighter, or the collective catharsis that happens in a club, and especially smaller clubs where you're breathing their, you're breathing their air, you know, and vice versa. There's an intimacy to that, and I'll say the word again. There's a catharsis, a group catharsis to that. That is the most important thing, and the rest of this is just to kind of like put a period at the end of the sentence, like the pedals, or the chaos pad or whatever is like, oh, he went with the chaos pad, so I guess he's on to something else now. But that thing he played before just broke my heart. And it also makes you. It's also one of the cruel things about music criticism and social media, is the things that people don't see. They see music as, I mean, I think what we did last night, and what we do with The Cure, and what I've done, it is entertaining. You know, my friend Dave Tronzo, who's like an incredible, like, for lack of a better comparison, he's a jazz slide player. I mean, when I met him, he was playing at the Whitney in the cafe on Sundays, playing jazz standards, and you wouldn't know he was playing slide unless he wanted you to. You know, and he said, he was like, some club owner said, yeah, I book you, but it's not really it's not that entertaining. And it's music. I know it's musical, but it's not that entertaining. He goes, you sit down in front of me and I'll play for you now, and you tell me that you're not entertained and enthralled, motherfucker. And he was right, to say that, and that's what this is. That's my explanation for the chaos pad. I'm nothing if not digressive or circumlocutive. To use a Frank Zappa word.
Jeff.
Wake up, Jeff.
Hey.
Wake up,
Jeff.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take a few questions before we wrap this up.
Okay, we got some questions here.
I bet we do.
So, HW, it's not really a name, wants to know if on your Cure board, if the modulation pedals are pre or post gain.
The answer would be yes. The phaser is before the gain stage, and I also have a line 6 M5, which lets me I can store it's got a bunch of user slots, and a lot of the earlier Cure stuff, they were running delay and reverb and chorus into the front end of the amp, and they were using anything from WEM, a lot of British amps, and they were new to play. I think relatively new to playing. They were like 18, 19, and they had hit songs, but they were, the technology and the instruments themselves were kind of new to them. So they were putting the pedals, stuff that I would put post gain, they were putting in front of the amp and running it into the preamp, so the reverb was distorting. So I have the M5 before my distortion stages when I need to duplicate a sound that is from the early career, and then I have the standby line 6 green box delay, the
DD4?
the DD4,
Yeah.
and
I've been running the same one for
Yeah.
26 years,
Yeah.
and it still works.
yeah, that's what this
Yeah.
that one is now staying home because I know it. I've painted it and it's got.
Yeah.
I know where every dent and scratch came from, so it's just pure sentimentality. It's the one I'll bring to local gigs. Even though it's just a metal box with electronics in it, it's like it might as well be an a guitar or something that I've and then reverbs are after my other I've got the TC Electronics Hall of Fame after it, and another TC Electronics version of the DD4, but I've switched that out. So now I've got two DD4s, and I use the expression pedal, which lets me get some of the stuff I would do with the Chaos Pad. When I first showed up to rehearsal with the Cure, I brought this because I wanted this was part of my thing at that point, and they looked at me after Robert said after the end of the first rehearsal, he goes, "I really like what you do with the Chaos Pad, but Reeves, we've already got a keyboard player." So, and the funny thing is, I did not own a chorus pedal because when I was in the '80s, if you had a chorus pedal, you sounded like the Cure.
That's funny.
And now I are one.
Yeah, right. Now you are one.
And what was extra funny was Robert brought in the next day. He brought in like a milk crate full of different chorus pedals and said, "You can have what you want." Yeah, there's some of each on both sides of the overdrive and distortion stages.
Right. So just a little sidebar. Johnny Cola did want you to know that the Staten Island Expressway is still not finished.
Really?
Thanks, Johnny.
Yeah.
I used to ride my
Give a little update there.
I used to ride my dirt bike when I was 14 or 15 when they first steamrolled when they made it smooth to put the asphalt down,
Mm-hmm.
and it stayed that way for about a year
Until you went at it with your dirt bike.
But they would fix it, I guess, when because I'd go there after school and after 5 and they'd already quit for the day. And my father would take me there. We had I had a mini bike, and then I graduated to the Honda dirt bike, and we had bought a surplus U.S. mail truck, and we put both bikes in the back and drive to near the expressway. And my dad was bigger than I am, and he would ride the mini bike. And it was like some sort of circus clown joke, because I remember his legs would be sticking out like that.
Yeah.
And the tires were only this big on it. It had like a 4 horsepower Briggs and Stratton lawnmower engine on it. And he was keeping an eye on me that I didn't dump the bike and go through like a fence.
Good man. Jose Benito Martinez Jr. Asks if you like the 3x3 headstock guitars, and if so, why don't you have a signature Reverend configured that way?
I'm thinking, do I?
Ken's got one right there.
No, because I already have the Revito, which was the Rick Vito modified model, which is 3-3, and yes, I do like the 3-3, but I'm always looking for something that's a little bit different than what other people have, and my Space Hawk is a 24 and 3/4 scale, like most 3-3 guitars are. But it's still got the 6 on the side, and I find it easier if I want to bend, like if I want to play I find it easier because there's nothing in my way here.
Mm-hmm.
So I can bend the strings up here. If you see old videos of Led Zeppelin when Jimmy Page was still playing a Telecaster, he did more bending up here. Yeah, but when he started playing the Les Paul, I don't think he did that as much because he was depending on his state of mind, he was probably more liable to knock himself out of tune.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I love his playing because of its. He's got that scramble, but you can hear his harmonic intention as well. You know, but he's like he's fighting the limitations of the fact that he was once he went to the Les Paul and he I think he stopped using any sort of just fuzz at that point, at least live. He was letting the Marshall do the work and the humbuckers. But earlier on, when he was using the color sound fuzz, he could get more. It sang in a different way, so he could get more out. He could work the note more. You know, but yes, I do have. I don't have a 3-and-3 signature model, but I have. That's my reason why we haven't thought of doing it. But I do have plenty of 3-and-3 guitars, and I've got a.
With as aggressive as you are with the trem, even with the Bigsby on the Space Hawk, the straight string pull with the inline 6 headstock.
That's it.
And there's also a string tension thing that Naylor explained to me once, like very, very well, because people talk about because I like reverse headstocks, right?
Yeah.
And I just like the way they look, and I like the ease of tuning on them. But when you have the longer length of string between the nut and the tuner, it actually puts less tension on your bends on the high E string because you are also bending the string behind the nut. You know, and you don't have to tune it differently. You're tuning to the same tension to get the string in tune, but having more string behind the nut makes the bending feel different. And so once you're used to that, it's the thing that you start to compensate for. And when you go back and forth between the inline 6 and the 3+3, you start compensating for the way you bend things. And when you've been doing it, when you're really experienced with the guitars, you know what each guitar needs to be treated like in order to get you there. And
I also there's a thing that has been pointed out to me that I often will pick up a guitar and not tune it. And I just realized that Zach Green restrung this for me last night, and he balanced it. I guess I had monkeyed with I know I had monkeyed with the action and with the tremolo a little bit, and I wanted him. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the way I had set the tremolo, but I do like it to be straight to the body, the base plate, and I guess it had moved. I hadn't noticed, but I did have we did a bunch with the band I played with last night. The drummer and I had done a couple of gigs in Italy, and the airlines beat the shit out of the case, and they did. I believe that was the issue with the switch.
Oh yeah.
And I'd have to hit the plate with my fist, and then it would come back. And then as long as I didn't move too much, but they even knocked the latches. They knocked the axle on the latches out halfway out. Why? What?
How did you do that?
But I should check the tuning because I haven't checked the tuning since he handed it to me last night after he restrung it, and it sounded in tune to me. But it has been pointed out to me that I will pick up a guitar that's slightly out of tune, but it'll sound in tune because it's like somebody said, well, maybe it's like that Hendrix thing because he would kind of like just play an out of tune guitar, but bend the note that was out of tune in a chord, he would just naturally bend it without thinking about it. And I'm not comparing myself to Hendrix, but
No.
I tend to do that when something goes, and that's so when I go to a 3-3, which they don't send to. I find they don't stay in tune as well, at least with the gauge strings I use, and so when I compensate physically for that.
I've been playing with floating bridges since the 80s.
Yeah.
Like all of my main guitars all have floating bridges, and I am nowhere near the guitar player that you or Jimi Hendrix are or whatever. But I find myself, because I've been doing it for so long, the complaint about the floating bridge is the double stop bend thing. And when you bend one note, you pull the other note flat. And I've been compensating for that
you've been
without even realizing, without even knowing that I'm doing it, until I pick up a hardtail guitar and I naturally just compensate for it, and the chords are out of tune. So I have a hard time going in the other direction.
My friend, our friend, Peter Fisher at the Reverend dealer at Collar City Guitars. I'll play his favorite lick of mine. He waits if he comes to see me play. I always slip it in somewhere, even though it's inappropriate. And I did it last night, and it's one of my couple of country licks. It's that.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing is compensating by pushing the high E, because the high E has to stay where it is, but I'm bending the B string, and and it can be a little out of tune because it's
because that's
usually played on a old Telecaster anyway.
What else you got, Jeff?
Gabe wants to know why you made the move from cutting-edge technology to rigs to stomp boxes. Is it because the Cures gig requires that, or because you changed your approach in your mind regarding high tones?
Well, it was a kind of a misconception when I was with David that I had, like, I did have a 20 space rack at one point, but the 20 space rack had two. I had all my spares in it, and I was using Boogie. I had a Boogie. It was at one point I was using the Boogie quad preamp, which was 4 rack spaces, and then I had the 295, I think it was, they made a 290 and 295 stereo power amp, which is 4 rack spaces, and then I had the only rack effect that I had was a Digitech IPS 33B, which was a smart shift harmonizer, and it would take regular volume pedals to control you could have 2 volume pedals and assign them to any parameter on any patch, and it could change from patch to patch. So I was doing it. Basically, what they did is out of that Digitech took aspects of that IPS 33B, and they made the whammy pedal, they made the space station, they made the part of the whammy wah. They basically took that one thing that required a little. You had to look at the manual for certain things to learn how to do it, and you just had to think, which is not a guitar player domain. There's enough guys out there using whammy pedals like they're wah pedals, where they're just going wing, 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 and that was not for you if you were doing that. And I'm not going to name any names, but so in that 20 space rack, 4, 8, 16 of those spaces were taken up with preamp and power amp, and then I had 2 IPS 33Bs that were a single rack space. And
hey, Reeves, Mike.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were telling me you changed your name. So basically, 16 of those spaces were taken up by just preamp and power amp. 2 spaces were taken up by the IPS 33B and the duplicate spare, and then I had a Juice Goose, which was made out of. Remember how fucking heavy they were?
Oh, yeah.
And you could flip the grounds so you could get rid of all. And that was it. And so that was. but I had I used a Yamaha MFC woodwind MIDI controller for their woodwind synth. For some reason, that worked great with my IPS 33B, and on the floor I had a fuzz wah with a Roger Mayer upgrade, and that was it. So I never really got away from. I was never a full-on rack guy, like Luke, Steve Lukather at that in the '80s and '90s was, and all the West Coast guys. I never had any Bradshaw stuff, and he, in a way, I regret that I never went down that road just to see what it was. But I wanted stuff that was I could fix on stage if something went wrong, and I didn't have to bother finding my guitar tech. And then with the Cure, the other thing was, we play big places. We have a crew where, it's if Madison Square Garden is actually a small gig for us, because it's only 11,000 people or something like that. But so we're playing big places, and we have a crew, and I thought to myself, this might be the last time that I can have a big pedal board and have, 3 4x12s and 3 heads behind me, and someone else to do all the heavy lifting. This is a prime example of me not doing the heavy lifting. And it works fine. I mean, the heaviest thing again is the snare stand. Yeah. So it wasn't a conscious change. It was just the fact that I didn't need to carry that much firepower, amplifier wise, in a 20 space rack in my 88 Volvo station wagon. Try putting the 20 space rack in that by yourself. Yeah. So
those Mason amps were heavy too.
And if
outside of the juice goose, and then did you have juice goose on the bottom or on the top? Because you had to have that thing on the bottom.
I had on the bottom.
Yeah, or else.
Yeah. But everything was the lightest stuff was always at the top.
Sure. Yeah.
And and really, as long as I have. If I have a 2-channel distortion pedal, I really like the Veridrive, which they stopped making in the late '90s, early 2000s. It's got one 12AX7 and its own internal transformer. It runs we plug it right into the wall, so it's the 12AX7 is like and it sounds like a really good preamp distortion, and I can run that into any clean or distorted amp.
Sure.
And I keep a boost pedal after it, and the boost pedal changes all the time. But if for like a gig where I'm just going to sit in with people or play with friends, or I know that that's all they want for this session is just me to play distorted rock guitar, I just bring those two things, and occasionally I'll stick them to a board that's got Velcro on it just so it looks semi-professional.
What else you got, Jeff?
We got some people asking about the configuration on that RG Sus.
I bet they are.
Yeah, it's some eagle eyes.
Yeah, I got some eagle eyes on there.
Should I explain?
You're welcome to.
Well,
sure.
Do you want
that sounds like a good way to go out. Why don't you explain what you got going on here?
I thought I was going to go out in a fast car.
Yeah, well,
on a sharp turn. The RG Sus has got my signature model rail hammer in the bridge.
It does.
And then it has a new a new pickup that Joe's come up with, because lately I've discovered the middle pickup on various guitars that have middle pickups, like the Warhawk the old Warhawk I have, and I was missing it when I was playing my RG Sus, my original run of RG Sus's, because that was a 2 pickup guitar. And then this pickup. So this is the I guess the top secret currently.
Don't tell anybody.
Single middle pickup, and it's hum canceling, and
then a single width version of the sustainer.
And a single width version of the sustainer, which to me sounds sort of like somewhere between a gold foil pickup and a Strat pickup when it's used as a pickup. Because one of the things about it is it's the sustainer pickup, which is when you use the sustainer, you automatically default to this as the audio source. And this is the driver. And so I'm basically going through the Sans Amp section of the Tech 21 calls it the blonde, which I don't know if they mean Fender or Boogie, or the Cali blonde or something like that. So anything Cali is usually Boogie, and anything blonde is usually
what about
early
Finland?
Well, that's translucent. So that's the bridge pickup without anything other than distortion clean. I can't get there from here. I have to bend down and shut the. I haven't checked the Sans Amp without it being on. And then you get the Strat sort of thing. Here, let's see what happens. And that's just. I'll go back to the bridge pick and do them clean, and then I'll go back to distortion. And it's a little. It's a dark pickup, but I like dark treble pickups. Both these pickups together, which has that little bit of that Strat out of phase. Middle pickup by itself. Right? And then these two together. So I can almost.
Yeah.
It gets a little stratty, and then the neck pickup by itself, which is the Sustainiac pickup, but I don't have the sustainer on, which is cool for like. That, for like scratchier things, and it's got a little bit of the Japanese like Tiesco guitar tone. Stark. And there's so much you can do by where you pick, which most guitar players aren't aware, or they don't think about, that if you play up against the bridge, it's a whole other world. You don't have to change pickups. It's one of the reasons why a single pickup guitar is really cool once you get used to it, because all of that string you can play up here, you can get it to sound like almost like a Strat neck pickup if you play over the end of the fretboard.
Sure.
So it's a little counterintuitive because it goes from really bright down by the neck to really dark up at the bridge.
Which is why we had Joe custom make a pickup for that position to sit in between the Sustainiac driver when used as a pickup and Reeves's rail hammer.
And I'm forgetting that. Oops.
Oh no!
I dropped my pick. Oh, it's so far down. You can get if I roll the secret weapon in all Reverend guitars, almost all Reverend guitars, is the bass roll off. I guess would be a way to describe it. So suddenly the bridge pickup that was really dark becomes a little less pushy to the amp. I mean, it's like a, what, it was 15K or something like that. Or it's a hot dark pickup. But with this rolled back and these two together, you get more of that position 2 of the sound. And this, I mean, most of the time, I use this almost more than the pickup selector with the Cure.
Cool.
Because a lot of the sound is the Bigsby and 2 humbuckers, but you want in the middle position, so you want that to be a little brighter and sparklier. And
because it sounds great with the chorus pedal.
Yeah, and actually, yes,
and it does. I know. Yeah.
That position 4. It's got more spank without the, and then this gets really thin. And then I guess the next question would be about the sustainer yak, right? If you
fire away.
So yes, it does work clean. I'll give it a little reverb though. And then if I take that out, it's stringier. You can hear more of the finger on the string, but the sustainer will still work with that. And then I'm going to hit the gain back in. So
do it.
I just want to tell you.
Yeah. With the sustainer, there's a 3-position switch on the sustainer.
Yeah.
And you mostly use the position that gives you the fundamental with both octaves.
Or I just go for a lot. What we've done with this is we've actually reversed the directions on the switches, because I like it to be the octave up and on when I slap it down, because I'm usually in the middle of something where I'm like trying to peak a solo out, so I'll use this. But it also has. If I turn it on now, I'm just using the fundamental, not the octave up. So. And now you can hear a little bit of the octave up comes in. But what usually happens is I'll be. So I like the octave up for that shit.
Yeah.
And you don't want to overstay your welcome, which is the same. Which is that's true about every effect, I think.
Yeah.
And if that's tasteful, then that might be when I'm tasteful. I don't know.
Well, this new version of the RG Sus is going to be available in the fall, and we're we're diligently working on getting all of this stuff out to you. And I would like to tell you that there is another Reeves Gabrels model that will be coming this summer. And we're not going to tell you what that one is because we're going to make you wait for something. We're not going to spill all of the beans today. But we are going to let you go because we're going to talk about that a little bit for you all from when that comes out. So we have that to do this afternoon. And I just wanted to say, thanks for tuning in and sticking with us.
Yeah.
And,
because I'm very long-winded.
Oh, it's great. it's so interesting. I'll play us out with that goofy e-shuffle thing, and I will be here next week. Upcoming, if you're in the Toledo area, come to the Village Idiot in Maumee tonight to see the Zimmerman twins, because we're going to have a special guest jump up and play with us a little bit, and you can guess who that might be. And then tune in here next week because I'm going to be here with Jess Lai next week, and I'm really excited to have her with me on the program because she's rad and she does cool shit. And we're going to sit down and make some music and talk about all her cool shit. And
she'll make sense.
And she'll make sense. And if you're out and about in the world catching rock shows this week, check out Billy Corgan and the Machines of God, and our friend Jenna playing bass. Those shows are going great, and I keep getting clips, and they're amazing. And look for me in Cleveland next Wednesday. I'll be the tall guy down front at that show as well. Everybody have a fantastic weekend, Toledo. We'll see you tonight.